There are stories that break the news cycle, and there are stories that break your heart. This one, it did both. And it's about a young woman from Philadelphia, a daughter, a friend, a caregiver, someone who was simply doing her job and then disappeared. Her name is Kada Scott, and when I tell you that this case hit close to home, I mean it. Because the streets where Kada lived, worked, and ultimately disappeared, Mount Airy, Chestnut Hill, and Germantown, they're the same streets that I grew up on, the same neighborhoods that my family and friends still walk every day, where I feel completely safe walking alone. Those neighborhoods have long been known for their quiet charm and tight-knit communities, with tree-lined streets, historic row homes, local shops, and parks that give them a sense of safety and familiarity. People know their neighbors, they know people in the neighborhood, and children walk to school and residents feel protected. That said, like any urban area, there are pockets where things can get sketchy. Late nights, less traveled blocks, and areas where more vigilance is required. But a violent and targeted attack like this, in a neighborhood like these, it's rare. And it has sent shockwaves through the entire community. I want to thank you for watching Who's Behind the Headline. I'm Layla Mitchell. Let's start with who Kada is. Before the headlines, before the police tape, before the court hearings, there was Kada. Kada Scott, a 23-year-old, friends describe her as warm, funny, loyal, someone who would go out of their way to help others, which makes sense because she worked in caregiving. She was a light to her family, and she loved beauty and fashion, and she would create lifestyle and fashion content on social media. She was a night shift employee at an assisted living facility in Chestnut Hill, a job that takes patience, compassion, and heart. And by every account, Kada had all three. She was building a life herself. She was figuring things out and making plans like any other 23-year-old would, until that night when everything ultimately changed. It was the night of October 4th. Kada had just started working her shift. Coworkers say they saw her on the phone. She was upset, pacing, and one person allegedly remembers hearing her say, quote, "I can't believe you're calling me about this." Now, earlier that day on the 4th, Kada had allegedly gone out on a date to Topgolf. It was a night of fun and a moment of normalcy. And when she got home, she got ready for work for her night shift at the terrace. And police say she actually leaves early at some point. She was last seen walking toward a dark-colored vehicle and driving away. Kada was never seen again. Authorities believe that Kada was killed within 30 minutes of being abducted. Before we go further, let's walk through the timeline of the alleged premeditation of the man that police say murdered Kada. His name is Keon King, and he's a man that many believe should never have been walking free in the first place. In January of 2025, Keon King, who was just 21 years old, was accused of kidnapping and strangling another woman. Those charges were dropped after the victim and a witness failed to appear in court. In April, another set of similar charges, but he bonded out. And another scary account involving Keon King, a TikTok video going viral on social media from an ex-girlfriend, shows King attempting to break in and peer into her home while she's with her children. She says that King was harassing her. Prosecutors say Kada's murder was planned, meditated, and egregious. On October 3rd, King allegedly stole a Hyundai Accent from the 6600 block of Sprague Street. Flash forward to the night of her disappearance on October 4th, around 10:07 p.m., Kada texted a number that is linked to King, saying, quote, "Kidnap me again." Now, investigators say King replied, quote, "Better be up too." Kada then responds something to the effect of, "See you when you're here." Investigators have not yet disclosed why they believe Kada sent that text, and at about 10:09 p.m., cell phone data shows Kada and King in the same area near her workplace. Shortly after 10:24, Kada's phone stopped transmitting. It was turned off. Surveillance footage later shows King's vehicle near the abandoned Ada H. Lewis Middle School, which is in the Arboretum in Germantown. Investigators say 2 people are seen moving a heavy object, which investigators say is believed to be Kada's remains. Authorities believe Keon King was using a black Hyundai Accent to transport Kada's remains, and on October 7th, that vehicle was set on fire in what investigators say was an attempt to destroy evidence, and cell phone data played a key role in connecting King to the vehicle and the crime. Investigators tracked his phone, pinging at all of the locations that have been tied to the car. Now, early on in the investigation, Kada's family called police when they didn't hear from her. Flyers went up, community searches began. Authorities say the investigation relied heavily on tips from the public. And initially, a tip led them to check the abandoned Ada H. Lewis Middle School, but they originally didn't find Kada. While they did find evidence, investigators kept following leads, reviewing surveillance footage, and cross-checking cell phone data. Then, another tip came in, directing them to look behind the school, in the area less visible from the street. And then that lead proved crucial. Kada's remains were found in a shallow grave. Now, Kada's family also shared that her Apple Watch pinged near the Arboretum, which helped authorities understand her last known location and movements that night. It was these pieces together, tips, technology, surveillance, that ultimately led investigators to a shallow grave where Kada's remains were found. The medical examiner later confirmed her death as a homicide, a gunshot wound to the head. For those of us who know Mount Airy, Chestnut Hill in Germantown, this hit like a punch to the gut. These aren't neighborhoods where random violent crime is common. This was targeted, personal, and horrifying. Kada's family says she had light that everyone could feel, and in their grief, they want her name remembered. She was more than a headline. She was a daughter, a friend, a caregiver, a vibrant young woman whose life was stolen far too soon. As investigators continue piecing the case together, phone records, surveillance, forensic data, the hope is that justice will come not just for Kada, but for the community that mourns her. At this time, the involvement of other people is also still being investigated. While King is the primary suspect, authorities are looking into whether others may have been involved. Video evidence shows 2 individuals moving the heavy object near the school the night after Kada disappeared. We talked about how the heavy object is believed to be Kada's remains. 2 women at the Belmar Terrace locations were detained, interviewed, and released. Their potential role remains uncharged and unclear. Prosecutors say they continue to pursue anyone who helped, concealed, or participated in this act. So while King faces the charges, this story may involve more people, pieces of the puzzle that will eventually come to light. Thinking about walking through Germantown, the kids, the friends, the neighbors that I grew up with, I realize how fragile safety can feel when violence touches our streets. But the community is showing up. Vigils, stories shared, and love extended to Kada's family. That is the heartbeat of Mount Airy in Germantown. To Kada's friends and family and the community she came from, we remember her, we honor her, and we will keep her name alive. Current charges against Keon King include the first-degree murder of Kada Scott, kidnapping, conspiracy to commit kidnapping, theft of a motor vehicle, possession of a firearm in the commission of a felony, and he faces other arson charges involving the vehicle. His next court date is set for November 3rd. And if you think you know anything, or if you yourself are a victim of Keon King, you are asked to contact the Philadelphia police, and you can do so anonymously. I'm Layla Mitchell, and thank you for listening to Who's Behind the Headline. We'll be back next week with another story, another voice, and another name that deserves to be remembered. We will continue to follow along with this case on this channel, and we pray for justice for Kada.